Good morning. Welcome to our program today. We'll be talking about grief with Broadreach Hospice. I'm Dorothy Burritt. I'm the director at the Eastham Senior Center. I'd like to just let you guys know what we're offering for services during this pandemic. We do offer virtual programming. We're offering food insecurity support and a variety of different programs. If you need anything at all, you can feel free to reach out to us. Our phone number is 774-801-3151. And we'll also provide some resources at the end of this program so you can access them as well. Now I'd like to introduce Paula Bruntz, who's a member of our COA Board of Directors.
Hello, everybody. We're here today to talk about grief and holidays. Now, I know for many of us, the holidays conjure up the notion of family get-togethers and gatherings and traditions. But for many of us who've experienced loss and massive changes to our lives, we don't really feel so jolly right about now. We're all feeling the impacts of COVID and so many changes in our lives that it's a little hard sometimes to get into the spirit of the holidays. At the end of the Macy's Thanksgiving parade, I heard a news commentator say when Santa pulled up in his sleigh in front of Macy's, can we just drop the ball now and be done with 2020? and you know, none of us feel that way, but we know we can't make that happen. So instead, we have assembled a panel of compassionate and very smart women who know a thing or two about grief in their roles at Broadreach Hospice here on Cape Cod. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce these people. First up, we have Nancy Sorbo, and Nancy is our grief care coordinator who's overseeing all of the Broadreach bereavement programs. She currently resides in Centerville with her husband and son, and she identifies as a wash-ashore.
Yes.
Thank you, Nancy. And next we have the Reverend Tiffany Pollock. Tiffany is a native of Southern California and now resides in Brewster, where she and her husband are co-pastors at St. Peter's Lutheran Church in Harwich. She's been a pastor for 24 years and a hospice chaplain for 3 years. So thank you for joining us today, Tiffany.
My pleasure to be here.
And last but not least, we have Peggy Wilbur, who is a social work and grief care coordinator for Broadreach Hospice. She started her career working with trauma survivors, who she refers to as thrivers. And then she's worked for many years with people dealing with chronic illness. And she's been with Broadreach Hospice for 11 years and is about to retire. So thank you all for being here today. And I'd like to just start, Nancy, by asking you a question to help us frame this conversation. Can you tell us, what is grief?
Yes. Well, I'll preface this a little bit with just the unique time we're in. Grieving is difficult any time of year, but at holiday time, and then we are in this unique time of a pandemic. So I just want to recognize the significant challenges for our folks that are out grieving and sorting out their loss during this time. And so to speak to what grief is a natural and normal response to loss of someone or something we care about. And that, of course, covers a large area of different types of losses. We can grieve the loss of a job that we loved. We can grieve a divorce, a pet, a family pet that's been part of our life. We can grieve many different aspects of things in our lives. So it's important to acknowledge that. I know today a lot of our focus will be on grieving a loss due to death of a loved one. And that, of course, is probably the most intense form of grief that someone can experience.
Thank you, Nancy. So Peggy, you've been doing this for a long time. Can you talk to us a little bit about events. Nancy touched on them. Tell us about some of the events that might be making people feel grief right now.
Okay. Well, like Nancy said, grief is something we experience anytime we lose something important to us, or anytime normal is disrupted. You know, I really like that definition because it broadens it and it makes us realize, first of all, why COVID is so hard on us. But so if you think about, you know, losing a job or even changing a job, having a baby, I think people always think that you only experience grief and loss for negative things. But the fact is, positive things can also result in us grieving. Somebody, you know, has been looking forward to having a baby, you know, and the baby's finally born. But wow, their life changes dramatically, and they're in the midst of the happiness, they're also grieving what they've lost. Same thing when people reach a goal that they've wanted for years. All of a sudden, when that goal's reached, they've lost sort of purpose. And what do we do now? But anytime you have a big physical illness, or a change of health of some sort, a change in your job, a change in where you live, you know, some people just moved, and that's part of grieving too. Losing your community. And then when you think about COVID, we have lost everything, almost everything we think of as normal in our life. Normally, we walk around in the world, no face mask on, hug people that we love when we see them, spend time one-on-one with them in our homes, going to, especially as this time of year comes, such a time when we want to be in each other's homes and sharing the holidays with them, sharing just time with them. The days are short, there's a lot of darkness. It's nice to be with people that you love. And that's all missing due to COVID. So when you put the holidays, COVID, and if you're a person who's experienced some major loss, it's a lot for anyone to deal with right now.
I agree, Peggy. That's well put. So, Tiffany, can you speak to us a bit about why the holidays make grief so much more prominent, not just in normal times, but in these times? What is it about the holidays that just, I don't know, lights up our grief?
That's a really good and insightful question. There is an emotional weightiness to this time of year. We have traditions. We bring out special artifacts that are only used at this time of year. I think about some knit Christmas tree ornaments my grandmother made for me. I have one that my 4th grade teacher made, you know, and it still hangs on the tree, and I take it out and I mourn the loss of that time or that person who gave that to me. And so we have, this year, we have all of these special griefs that are layered upon us. So we can't look forward to that special gathering that we've always had. And at the end of this month, we always get together and we always sit around the table. We always have this meal, and that's not going to be here. So we have these heightened expectations, and we have farther to fall into this pit of despair. And so it gets to be really tough. And we know that we're supposed to be joyful because all the music sounds like that. But it doesn't jive with what we feel inside. So we're kind of holding these things that don't seem to go together. And that is a hard thing to balance. So I think that makes it particularly difficult.
It does. You almost made me, you know, need a tissue here thinking about it. But so our whole point here today is to identify that this is happening, and it's happening for all of us. So we want to talk a little bit now about what things we can do to make the holidays more bearable. And I wanted to share a story that really reflects for me a great example of how to make the holidays more bearable. We incurred a loss of devastating proportions on a Christmas morning. We received a phone call that my daughter's best friend and a very important part of our family had died in her sleep. And the day, Christmas Day, was, I can't describe the levels of grief, being there with her family in the living room where the Christmas presents were laid out and their daughter had died. So as we approached the next Christmas, my kids, my husbands, none of us felt like we wanted to relive Christmas Day. We didn't want to do any of the traditions. And about a week before Christmas, I get a knock on my door, and it's the mother of Alex, who had died last Christmas. Her name is Sandy. And Sandy had in her hands this huge, what we call roast beast. And she hands it to me and she says, I need you to accept this from us, because I know how important a part of your family tradition this is, just like ours, but we are not going to be able to do it this year, but it will give me so much comfort if you all would eat this and think of Alex. So of course, I'm bowled out of the water. Like, here's this grieving mother comforting me. So I said, Sandy, you just are so amazing. And she said, I'm really not, Paula, but I have a trick. And my trick is every hour I give myself a chance to reassess what I said I was going to do. So I might tell you I'm going out to lunch with you today and call you an hour before and say, Paula, I can't do it. And you're going to know I'm okay because I'm taking care of myself. And I'm going to know that I have the choice to make plans and break plans. And that's how I'm getting through the holidays. So what do you have to say about how people can help themselves and help get through these holidays?
Well,
Anyone?
Sure. Thank you for that amazing example of a person who is able to ask for what she needs, right? She was able to tell you what she needed and what she didn't need. And I think that communication goes a long way. So as a suggestion, I think if we, as people who are grieving, let the people around us know what it is that we need, because oftentimes they don't have a clue and they're just waiting, what can I do for you? And so that is a great example. And she also spoke to another important thing, giving herself permission to be flexible. Yes, I'm going to make this positive pre-plan. I'm coming over with the roast. I may want to go to lunch with you, but you know what? I'm going to give myself permission to change my mind. So if folks can, planning is great. And with the holidays in particular, and if you have a large family, I used to do an in-service and would call it positive pre-planning. Your holidays coming up, and granted, this holiday is quite different than our prior ones, as Tiffany spoke to, but talk to your family about what it is you want to do with that milestone event or that holiday, because what you think might be very different than what your brother thinks, if you're all grieving the loss of your parent. So I'll give you a quick example. My big Irish family, we always gathered for holidays. And when my mother passed, we realized there's this huge void, and what are we going to do? So we had a conversation. I took Christmas, my brother took Easter and Thanksgiving. But, that's just an example. We had a plan, and we knew that our plan would honor our mom as well, because she would love to know that we were still coming together and we're thinking of her.
That's nice. That's really nice. Thank you. Anyone else have any suggestions for helping people get through this time?
I think it's really important that we continue to tell the stories. If you're the person who's grieving the hardest, you sometimes feel like nobody else remembers your loved one, that they've all left them at the graveside and moved on, and you're still stuck. But it's okay to talk about the person, so I make sure when we put the ornaments on the tree with our girls that we tell the stories of the people that they might not remember. And it helps us to bring them and their memories and all the good things that were about that person into our family story, and to talk about these things, the people or the things that we have lost, and it's a good thing. It can help us process it.
I love that.
Like it. Anything else on this?
Well, I think there's tons of things people can do, really. It's almost an overwhelming list, which is good, because when you're in a bad place, you need all the help you can get. But you know, I love the things that people have already mentioned, and your story, Paula. You know, one of the things that captured me when you were telling that is she did something for someone else.
Mhm.
And whenever people are grieving, if they can pull them out of themselves and think of something they can do to help somebody else. I mean, think of like Mothers Against Drunk Drivers and organizations like that were started by grieving people who, you know, had gone through a loss that was so devastating, but they turned it into something good for the world. Our endorphins just shoot up when we do something nice for other people. So that, you know, there's so many ways that what she did for you was a help to her. So I think that's always great. Along that line is gratitude lists, and making it a mindful choice to be grateful for the things you can find in your life. Anytime you start to focus on what you're grateful for, it helps with the grief. I know when I make a bereavement call to somebody for the first time, and if within minutes they're talking about, well, they're so blessed because this, I know that person is going to do well because they're able to see the blessings in the midst of the loss. And then just good self-care, like all the things we know, getting outside and walking. You know, now we're realizing about the affect negative. I'm sorry, I have a puppy here that's moving around. We have negative ions, you know, the ocean, the waves of the water create negative ions. The wind blowing through the tree leaves creates negative ions, and negative ions improve our mood dramatically. So unfortunately, our tendency when we're grieving or when we're sad or down is to pull the covers over our head, stay in bed, and isolate even further than COVID. But if we can, you know, make a genuine choice to, even for 5 minutes each day, get outside, experience fresh air, try to do a walk, maybe meet a friend and do it if that helps you. But I don't want to bore people, but the list of self-care things goes on forever.
Well, Nancy, I think it just makes so much sense to me. And I know, you know, even on a cloudy day, if, you know, we're blessed to live here on the Cape, we can walk on the beach, go near the water, drive and look out of your car window. I think all of your suggestions are really wonderful. I want to ask you all quickly, something that many of us struggle with is, what are the right things to say to somebody grieving, and what are the wrong things to say? Anyone have any suggestions there?
Nancy and I just ran a event last night called Gratitude and Grief at the Holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the women mentioned somebody saying to her, well, he's in a better place now. And she said, I can't let go of that. She said, he's not in a better place. His better place is with me. And so, you know, one of the other women in the group said, people don't know what to say during grief. And so they end up sometimes saying stupid things.
Anybody else have an example of those good or bad things?
One that I think we probably all have heard, call me if you need anything. And on the surface that sounds okay, but truthfully, the grieving person does not have the energy to call. And to put the onus on them to reach out, particularly when their grief is new, is a lot to ask. So, what I think, and this ties into what you should say, specific offers of help are wonderful. If you're able to say, I'd love to come over and rake your yard on Saturday morning. How does that sound to you? And always ask permission. If you want to make an offer, check with that person, because it's so important that they have some control. Their world is feeling out of control. So check with them. And, and then I often would say, I'll send you a text in the morning just to make sure we're still good. And if not, that's okay. So again, we're building in some flexibility. The specific offer is there. And of course, it depends on how well you know the person, right? The type of help if someone's my best friend, I'll probably know her life pretty well and what are the things in it that she needs help with, versus I'm a neighbor in the neighborhood, and I'm reaching out to someone who I've known just a short time. What we offer would be different.
Right. Thank you, Nancy. Tiffany, can I ask you to talk a little bit about when, there's so many things that happen when we're grieving. We're crying, we're not sleeping well, we're not eating well. When should we become concerned about grief that maybe needs some additional supports?
That is a very good question. And my easy answer is that any of the extremes. If you find yourself suddenly not able to get up because you're sleeping too much, or you're not sleeping at all, and that's starting to affect your judgment because you're sleep deprived or sleeping too much, time to get some help. It's okay to cry. That is perfectly okay, and is very helpful. If you're drinking too much, if you're using substances to level you out or help you get through a day, talking with someone about it might be more helpful than that is, because that's going to lead to some other problems.
Right. So we're gonna have to conclude. Unfortunately, I think we could talk all day. We do have a list of resources that Dorothy is going to share with us at the end. There are grief support groups. There are Warner's Bill of Rights. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? We're just about out of time, and I want to give Dorothy time to list the resources. I think we probably
wanted
need to go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for doing this. I just think this is a wonderful community service. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for coordinating and putting this together. It's such an important topic for everyone, not only seniors, but everyone involved. And I will mention one thing as a resource that the Senior Center has. We do have a licensed social worker who offers pro bono counseling. So if that's of interest to someone, they can just call us and we'll coordinate it. It's all virtual. But that's just one more offering that we have available here. And I know Broadreach Hospice has wonderful offerings as well, and there's many support groups.
So Dorothy, if you want to go ahead and share the resources,
Yeah.
and I want to thank all of you and wish everybody the best holiday they can have.
So I will share this information. This is also listed on the Town of Eastham website. So what you want to do is go to eastham-ma.gov, click on Departments, Senior Center, and you'll see grief support and grief for the holidays support. You'll see those two documents. And you can always call us as well if you need any information. Again, our number is 774-801-3152. And now I'll show the documents that we're talking about. So I'll just scroll through here so people can take a look at these documents. And again, these will be available online on the Town of Eastham website, or you can always call us. We're happy to mail this, or anything at all, or email, or whatever works for someone. And again, we're here. We can provide references and support, and hook people up with the right resources. So just some tips again for the holiday season. And if you know a neighbor or a loved one that may be in need, it's also nice to possibly, refer them to us, or to Broadreach, or to anyone else that you think might be a great resource. As it was pointed out before, often we find most people don't come and ask for help. You really have to do some outreach and find out what people need and offer services. And again, asking that permission and letting people know really you're there, and you can provide some help for them. So this last page, you'll see some additional resources listed here. I'll leave this up for a few seconds so everyone can take a look at those. And again, these are available on the website, or just give us a call. And the last one I'm going to share with you is the virtual support group that is being run by Broadreach. So those are the dates. If you need Zoom support, please call us as well. We have someone available to help you with that. We can set you up with it. If you're in need of a device or internet, just give us a call. We'll see what we can do for you.
Okay. Thank you all again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Be
you.
well, stay well, and happy holidays.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Same
you.
to you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.